The Chargers have survived a rash of injuries to get to 4-2 on the season, and the great news is they could be getting some major guys back like Joe Alt or Khalil Mack very soon.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as a host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, sometimes in battle, you're going to take a couple of blows and you might lose a couple of people, but you just have to stay afloat until reinforcements arrive. And I am feeling very confident that we will get some big ones here very, very soon. And also, should the Chargers be worried about Jesse Minter? The defense hasn't been as dominant as it was to begin the season, and it is really nice to have a general manager that makes trades and acquires players and does everything that he possibly can to improve the football team. Could he make another one?
I mean, you heard what Jim Harbaugh had to say at his press conference on Monday, and it didn't seem like he was committed to not trading for another running back. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. David, it is Buy or Sell Tuesday, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And I think right now, with the injuries the Chargers have had, a lot of eyes this week are going to be on who they can get back. They got to 4-2. They have a couple of really tough games in a 10-day span coming up. They really need to get some guys back for this game. And it feels like some guys could be back. So this was inspired by Steven Sullivan, who said the offensive line will be fully healthy besides Rashawn Slater. Let's just make it the entire team. David, buy or sell the Chargers get a major piece back this week?
I'm going to buy it. I feel very, very confident that the Chargers are going to get a massive piece back. And I think a little bit of this is inspired by, obviously I'm a Charger fan as well as a Chargers content creator here. So I'm consuming as much Chargers content as possible as well. And one thing I heard from Matt Money Smith is that Khalil Mack does not have the the elbow brace on anymore. He's not wearing it. And we know that he is eligible to come back to play as early as this week. And the Chargers desperately miss his presence, his physicality, his strength, his dominance on the edge. They absolutely need him back. As much as I would love, and I mean love, to see the Chargers get Joe Alt back as well, I am less confident that that's going to happen. It's just with high ankle sprains, you just don't know. It's just a very different situation with everybody, how far, and you just don't want to push it, because that could turn into something a lot more serious, and they don't need to miss that guy for the remainder of the season.
Yeah, I mean, the Joe Alt part is really tough. I mean, you could say the same thing about Trey Pipkins, even though we don't know the exact kind of degree of the injury with Trey Pipkins. We know that Joe Alt has a high ankle sprain. We also know that they didn't put him on injured reserve. So in theory, even though, their injured reserve spots to return are drying up quickly, and we'll have more of a conversation about that tomorrow. But in theory, if you're not going to put someone on IR, it's because you think they're going to miss less than 4 games. This would be the 3rd game that Joe Alt will miss this week, meaning if he's not back this week, you would think they believe at least that he will be back next week. I would keep a real eye on the kind of early injury reports this week. Like if we can see Joe Alt in a limited participation type of practice on Wednesday, then maybe you start being like, okay, there's a real chance he can play this weekend. We know that he was trying to get back in the game when he rolled it initially. So I wouldn't put it past him. Khalil Mack, it's hard because the Chargers have yet to announce at least that they've opened up the 21-day window on Khalil Mack. So that would be the kind of the first step. And we just don't know what his practice status would be. We do know that Denzel Perryman was limited Wednesday last week, practiced fully Thursday and Friday, and still didn't end up playing. Different injuries. Khalil Mack's going to be fine to play if he can. And we know how much they need him back, not just for the physical edge setting and all of that, but because he was the guy who led your team in pressures last year and was your best pass rusher in the last 2 seasons leading up to this. So to get him back would be awesome. I do think we'll see some smaller names. Denzel Perryman, I expect to be back. And I think we'll get one of Trey Pipkins or Jamari Sawyer back. But I have a really good feeling that the Chargers are going to get Quentin Johnston back this week, especially after being a game-time decision last week. Feels like this week he should be very much back in the fold after limited participation all week last week. I think we see him back, which is a bigger part that the Chargers needed, maybe more than we thought going into the season. But let's get to this next buy or sell that we have here from Athir, who says, buy or sell, the O-line deserves their flowers for how they played on Sunday, keeping my quarterback upright. David, do we owe some flowers to the Chargers offensive line?
We owe them a couple of flowers, but no bouquets here, okay? Like, we got to look at the whole kind of, the whole picture and evaluate.
We're scarred
the film.
from apologizing to Trey Pipkins and then immediately having him give up like 9 pressures.
Yeah. So we're gonna pump the brakes on just giving out full sets of flowers here, but they played well enough. I will say that. Zion credited with only 1 pressure, Mekhi Becton 2, Bradley Bozeman 4, and a QB hit. Bobby Hart 1 pressure. Austin Deckles 4 pressures and 2 hits. But he also got contributions from Will Dissly and Tucker Fisk, who were basically extensions of the offensive line, and they greatly aided both of these tackles. And they needed to. They absolutely needed to. They needed to be there to be that support. I mean, Bobby Hart hadn't played in a game in a couple of years, so they absolutely needed to add extra help on his side, and they did just enough. Justin Herbert didn't get hit as much in this game, was only sacked once, but that's also due to his wizardry and his ability to escape the pocket, escape sacks, just his unbelievable strength and his ability to just keep plays alive. It's a big part of it as well.
It absolutely is, and they do deserve some flowers for sure. But yeah, I was surprised to see Bobby Hart was only credited with 1 officially. Obviously, he had a false start. He had some other bad moments too, considering his situation. Understandable. But what I would say is, as much as they deserve flowers, Greg Roman probably deserves more, or as many at least, because this was a Mickey Mouse, dumb it down, max protect Justin Herbert, stop letting him get hurt, even if you have to run your offense a certain way, even if you have to live on 3rd downs because you have to take that 5-yard out to Ladd McConkey or Keenan Allen on 2nd and 9, right? They had to live in those moments and get rid of the ball quickly, and Greg Roman did an excellent job with the game plan of protecting his offensive line in this game and protecting his quarterback. So they did perform better than I expected. But I think we all saw on that last drive how much Greg Roman was protecting him, because as soon as he couldn't protect them, what had happened, right? On that last drive, 1st and 10, Justin Herbert gets crunched immediately. Got loose. Barely is able to get rid of the football. 2nd down, he has to shrug off, one of the 2 free rushers basically that was running in his face on that last play.
Anybody else is getting hit and sacked a bunch of times on that.
Of course they are, but the biggest point of it is just that when the Chargers got down and they got desperate and they had to throw and the other team knew they were going to throw, it was bad. Immediately it was bad, because as soon as they blew that 13-point lead, they had 2 drop back passing plays and the Dolphins got huge pressure on both of them immediately. So I think that shows how much Greg Roman deserves credit for that, and being able to continue it through a whole game and put up 20 points in the second half in that game. But let's get to this last one here before we get into some more buy or sells. With this one from We Are the Storm, buy or sell, Andre James will never play this season. David, quickly, are we buying or selling that?
Yeah, I'm selling it, unfortunately. As much as I'd love to see him get out there and play, I believe
you're buying it, I guess, right? That we'll never play this season.
I'm buying that he's never going to play, barring a significant injury. It's just not going to happen. I believe Coach Harbaugh was asked explicitly why someone isn't playing ahead of Bradley Bozeman, and it's because they don't believe that they're better. And he says when someone plays better than him, then he'll play over him. So that's the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh saying pretty explicitly that Bradley Bozeman is better than Andre James, and that's why he's playing.
Yeah, and in less words, right? Obviously, he was careful about how he said it. He didn't make it specifically Bradley Bozeman. He said the guys that are in there because they're playing the best, and if someone behind them is playing better, they will play, right? So I went back and watched Bozeman too. Really bad loss, one-on-one to Jalen Phillips that ended up, which was infuriating. It was 3 rushers on 5 offensive linemen, and it was immediate pressure. That's an unfair matchup against the center, obviously, but didn't have it correctly lined up. Should have had help on it. Honestly, like one-on-one, I don't think he's terrible in pass protection, and that was kind of my takeaway there. But they still just struggle so much with the stunts, where at least a couple of those pressures, the 4 that he's allowed, were because of that. I don't think we're going to see Andre James. And if you don't have a better option, that's kind of on you, because Bradley Bozeman has a lot of, pass blocking snaps this year, but easily has the most pressures allowed by any center this year. He's at 16 through 6 games. Nobody else has more than 13. So second worst pass blocking efficiency in the league so far through 6 games. It hasn't been good. It's hard to really sugarcoat that, but hopefully we'll see some reinforcements. Unfortunately, center is not going to be one of them. But we still have more to get into, because the golden boy, Jesse Minter, was really hot through 3 weeks. And after the last 3 weeks, we have to start asking some hard questions. So we're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Nobody likes paying rent, but if you must, you might as well get something for it, and that's where Built comes in. Built is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards that you can actually use. When you pay rent through Built, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed towards hundreds of hotels, airlines, and future rent payments. There's nothing worse than paying rent and realizing that you're not getting anything out of it. You could pay for your next Lyft ride potentially with the points you could get by using Built for your rent. But Built isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. I love that with Built, your rent finally works for you. You're earning points every month on something that you already have to pay, whether I'm grabbing food or at my favorite local restaurant or heading to the gym. I'm still earning rewards. Built has made everyday life feel more rewarding, from your neighborhood to your travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use that link so they know we sent you. What do you get when you have a bald eagle standing on top of a silverback gorilla riding a T-Rex? Confidence. Pure confidence. If you're looking for something that goes beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiette's Go Long comes in. This isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-trusted medications in one dual-action formula, so you can get hard and go the distance. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. The process is simple. Connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. If prescribed, also, you can get it right to your door and get the privacy that you need. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com, promo code LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. David, let's get back into these buy or sells, getting into the biggest Charger storylines and overreactions. And thank you to all the everydayers that contributed to today's show. But I do think a lot of people are feeling like Jackson here when he says, buy or sell, it's time to talk about Jesse Minter. This Chargers defense has allowed almost 30 points in back-to-back games and have been terrible against the run, whether it's a mobile quarterback or a running back. Minter has some serious adjustments he needs to make to his scheme. David, are you buying or selling this?
Yeah, I mean, the last few weeks, it has absolutely showed itself, especially on the ground. But I feel like in every game, they've given up explosive plays. I mean, that's happened. And that's something that, especially when the core concept of your defense is to put a roof over the coverage and not allow those explosive plays, well, you're kind of conceding a little bit the running game. They've conceded a lot of the running game. And the last 3 games in particular, it's been 137 yards, 163 yards and 118 yards on the ground. They've had a very, very tough time in particular securing the edge. It absolutely is a huge problem in the running game. They're running those outside zones and they're finding all kinds of success. So I'm hoping that when Khalil Mack comes back and he brings that physicality in his edge setting, that he'll help at least help correct that problem. I mean, obviously he's not the full answer. He's only one man, but he is a big presence, especially when it comes to that situation.
Yeah, and I think between him and Denzel Perryman, I think you can feel good that there's, that's impactful to get those guys back. We know what Khalil Mack brings. Now, does it fix all of your problems? No. It doesn't. And every game has had similar issues to as far as where they're getting beat for those big plays. It's on the outside. It's the other team getting the edge. 3 touchdowns in the last couple of weeks. You get off a misdirection, handing it to the left side, and just basically having someone go untouched for a touchdown or a huge gain. So that part of it, at least somewhat falls on Jesse Minter. Like there has to be an adjustment to where you get better at that. You can't make tackles for people, but they've yet to allow 30 points in the game this year, even after allowing a season high 27 in back-to-back. The problem is this week you get the number one offense in the entire NFL coming to town, right? Not only are they the number one offense, they have an elite running back and a top 6 rushing attack, and they're 4th in yards per game, and they've scored 20 plus in every game and 30 plus in 4 of 6. The problem with Jesse Minter's defense last year was it played really, really well, except when you played top offenses. The Bucs shredded them. The Ravens shredded them, right? The Bengals shredded them. Even in a loss, they got shredded. That was the problem. And how much of it was playing the bad quarterbacks and the bad teams that they had to play. So now, the last couple weeks, it's been Bill Krosky-Merritt and Devon Achane who have been just torching you. Cam Scatterbo goes for, 100 plus. Has to call some things differently because he hasn't had Khalil Mack. But yeah, I think it's the real thing is they were really good in red zone defense, and that bailed them out of a lot of points early on. In the last couple of weeks, they've been really bad at red zone defense and not being able to keep teams out of the end zone. And when you're giving up those yards and they end in touchdowns, it ends up like last week where in 2 drives you give up 14 points and a 14 or 13-point fourth quarter lead evaporates right in front of you. But I think
you can't play bend but don't break, and then you end up breaking.
You can't play bend and then break. That's not how it works. But I think the main thing on everyone's head is this, David. Buy or sell, Jesse Minter will still be the defensive coordinator in 2026.
I'm going to buy it. I think that he will get some head coaching interviews for sure, because I still think as a whole, when you look at how he has transformed, how this Chargers defense has performed, in contrast to what we saw before with Brandon Staley and his defense traditionally being and habitually being at the end of the bottom of the league in defense, no matter what it was. They didn't really have anything that they could really hold their hat on. They were bad against the run. They were bad against the pass. They didn't get after the quarterback. They didn't get any turnovers. It was just bad. Jesse Minter has absolutely transformed this Chargers defense into one of the top defenses in the NFL. Whether, how you look at it right now statistically, the last couple of weeks haven't been great, but as a whole, it is a much, much better operation than it was before. So I think we have to remember that as well.
Yeah, I think they're still 12th in the league in points per game allowed, right? So it's not like it's just been devastatingly bad. And, I think that the tough thing is this, let me just say, this will be a huge game for them, right? Like, this will be a game where it's like, okay, this is something that's for real. Because the Colts defense was really bad last week. But you just wonder if the Chargers will be able to keep up with what you think Jesse Minter's defense might allow in this game. But I also think it's important to kind of remember, too, first of all, 3 weeks in, I thought there was maybe no way Jesse Minter was coming back. And 6 weeks in, I feel like he's very much coming back. So I'll buy it from that standpoint. But, the Chargers also didn't pour serious resources into this defense. They really didn't. They had the money, and they didn't, right? You lose Joey Bosa and Poona Ford in free agency. And then your biggest free agent additions are guys like Dante Jackson, right? And then a bunch of reclamation projects like a Benjamin St-Juste, a Deshaun Hand, a Naquan Jones. Those aren't big time free agent signings. And you add on to the fact that they also spent 4 of their top 6 picks on offense and didn't spend their first pick on defense until later on in the 3rd round. So I think that has to also be factored into it. He's working with less. They still think he's good, but there are some things I think he can tighten up, but I do think he'll be back in 2026. Let's get to this one really quick, David. Buy or sell, we should be concerned about Odafe Oweh being the Chargers' lowest graded defender according to PFF on Sunday. What do you think?
Absolutely not. And I think I saw somebody put out there, hey, you got to pay attention to when Daniel says, when you look at the PFF grades, you got to take it with a grain of salt. You got to actually watch the game and see the impact and also understand the contrast or the context, of the situation. This guy just got here 3-4 days ago, and he's showing up in the game, and he's leading the team in pressures. Got a huge sack, one of the first times he was stepping foot on the football field. That's huge impact already. So the guy was good in the game. I think if you watch it, it's pretty obvious to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because obviously you don't know exactly what they're being asked. I mean, a couple of times, he's probably taking receptions counting against him as a guy who's an edge rusher, right? Where he shouldn't really necessarily be in those situations. So, I went back and watched him specifically because the thing is, you can watch the game 7 times. If you're not focused in on a couple of players or who you want to actually watch on each side of the ball, it's just 11 guys and it's impossible to keep track of everyone. So I went back and watched Bozeman specifically. I went back and watched the defy specifically, and he just made plays, man. Like, he has more plays than I can remember specifically in this game than I've seen from Bud Dupree and Caleb Murphy. No offense to them all season as far as just impactful plays. Obviously, he gets his first sack after having 0 all season long, which was great to see, and chased Tua down. Not the most fleet of foot quarterback I know, but chasing a quarterback outside of the pocket and making an open field tackle is not something that this team, out of any team, should be taking for granted at all, especially in space. Had a good play before the missed field goal, that 57-yard missed field goal that people forget that the Dolphins had, which might have changed the game. It was 3rd and forever. They run the double pass where it's Jalen Waddle throwing it back to the other side or whatever, and then he chased it all the way down from, going the wrong way initially, and kept that to a minimal game that made it a 57-yard field goal, maybe not a 52 or a 51-yard field goal. Also, probably should have stopped points before the half, but just got blatantly robbed on a blatant hold that was not called, where a guy literally had his arm wrapped around his neck. And also, right after that, just smoked Tua and had a really big hit on him. So I thought he was more impactful than that PFF grade says for sure. And also, I think obviously much better days are ahead, especially once Khalil Mack comes back and you get him, Thule, and Odafe all out there at the same time. But we still have much more to get into because there could very much still be a trade on the horizon, and that trade could be for a running back. We're going to talk about all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The NFL season is in full swing, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss because right now new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives you so many different ways to play. I built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during the game. And you can also build your parlay your way with a tool that fine-tunes the lines and lets you customize player props yourself. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better, and the Chargers have one of their toughest tests of the season. Arguably the best team they've played this season, and I don't think that's crazy. This team they're going up against probably should be undefeated, maybe should have dropped one against the Broncos, but should have won against the Rams for sure, and the Chargers are 1.5-point favorites at home against the Colts this weekend. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. David, we still have more buy or sells to get into, and thank you to all the everydayers out there for contributing onto today's show, and we'll probably do at least a couple segments of Chargers mailbag tomorrow, so you guys can hit us up for that as well. But as always, thank you for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the 2 shows they have daily at Locked On NFL on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts from, with Tyler the Madman Roland and my guy Tony Wiggins in the barbershop. But David, let's get into some more buy or sells here, and I think we have a very apt one from Bolted Chad here, who says, buy or sell, the Chargers still go out and trade for a running back even after Kamani Vidal's stalwart performance. What do you think?
Absolutely, yes. The Chargers definitely should still be looking to add more help to the running back room, especially when the kind of reports came out that Omarion Hampton is probably going to be missing more than the minimum 4 games that you have to be on IR. So I think with that being said, I think the Chargers are still going to be looking to add more talent to that room. And also, I appreciate the fact that Kamani Vidal had a fantastic performance in that game. I mean, truly a great performance. But before this, last year, he had 43 carries for 155 yards. That was good for 3.6 yards a carry and had 1 receiving touchdown. So also, he was going up against the worst run defense in the NFL by a long shot. So I think we have to understand that it was a great performance, but we still got to see it be replicated against other teams with better defenses before we can start putting all of our faith in Kamani Vidal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would buy it. I don't know if I'd say for sure I think they're going to trade for a running back. I think it all depends, but I do think that they are actively looking to do it. And Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo last week said as much, right? They reported the Chargers were shopping around, and when asked specifically, I believe by Daniel Popper, hey, do you trust that Kamani can be the guy until Omarion Hampton comes back and also be the second fiddle to Omarion Hampton when he comes back? He was very non-committal, right? Basically said, hey, he made a great first impression, like as if you're like on a date or in an interview or something like that. But also said that GM Joe Ortiz is always talking with other teams to try to improve this roster, as he has always said. So I agree. It is one of the worst run defenses of the league, but at the same time, like, let's not pretend that we haven't seen some terrible Chargers rushing attacks go up against the worst run defenses in the league and still have, 18 carries for 50 yards. Like, we've seen that story play out 100 times. So
Yep.
deserves a lot of credit. He was good. I mean, several of those plays, he had some, like, okay, you're an NFL level running back and there is something, to you that maybe you're just not getting with a replacement level player, which I think is a huge win for a guy that got cut this year and had to be on the practice squad before they had the devastating injuries to Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, as much as we talk about this offensive line, how banged up it is, we don't talk about it a lot affecting the running game. They're doing this also behind that same offensive line. So let's get to this one here, David. Just more generally speaking, buy or sell, the Chargers will make another trade before the November 9th or the November 4th deadline.
After having to suffer through the Tom Telesco era, it is very nice to have a general manager that will actually make trades to improve your football team. Go figure. Imagine that. They actually can do that. I never thought that was possible. And they've already made a couple of trades already this year with Austin Deckles, who has played a lot more than anybody ever expected him to. And obviously the newest addition, Odafe Owe, the pass rusher, who I think had made a great first impression and is only going to get better and better as he gets more ingrained in the defense and also gets with Khalil Mack and gets the benefit of having to be able to, or getting the opportunity to rush with him and Thule. I think the Chargers are going to make another trade. I feel pretty confident in that. I feel like we already know that they're looking, and there are reports out there that they are trying to do that or looking to see if they can make a deal work for them that's going to improve their football team. And I feel very confident that's going to happen.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, if I had to bet one way or another, if I had to put in a real amount of money on if he would or he wouldn't, I think I would put it on that he would, just based on his track record. And the 2 trades he's already made this year. This is where it gets tough though, right? You've already traded 2 of your 2026 draft picks. You only have 5 draft picks currently in 2026. You traded a 7th in 2027. You got the Rams 7th back in the Alohi Gilman Odafe Owe trade. But you have 5 picks in 2026. How many of 2026 picks where you should have a team that has Rashawn Slater back and get some improvement from your young players are you trying to ship away for this team that we know they're not getting guys like Rashawn Slater and Najee Harris and Junior Colson for whatever that's worth back, right? Like, there's certain guys you're just riding off for the whole season at this point.
Right.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on what the Chargers are looking like. You have 2 games in the next couple of weeks, 2 games against winning teams against the Colts and the Vikings in 10 days. You could be 4-5 after that. Like, that's just the fact, or 4-4 after that. That's just the fact of the matter. Like, that could be where you stand. What they do leading up, it's after week 9 when they have to make this decision. It's November 4th after their week 9 game against the Titans. We'll have to see what they are, right? Like, if they're, at that point 6-3, 5-4, do they make those moves? Or do they, because like really, if you're going to send more than 2 picks out of 1 draft class away already, you better be pretty certain that this team is going to contend that season, right?
Yeah.
Like that's in my opinion, right?
I agree.
How much are you willing to do? Now, will they trade a late 2027 for a running back who's not playing for another team? Sure. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
They also have an unbelievable amount of cap space next year, too. So maybe that's factoring into the decision is they might be a little more aggressive in free agency and a little bit less so with the limited ammunition in the draft.
Absolutely. I think it's just hard for Chargers fans to buy into that because you had a bunch this year. You had, $90 million at one point before Khalil Mack's deal and all of the other things that they had to do. But either way, it'll be interesting to see what they think about this team, and they'll tell you by how active and how aggressive they are. We always talk about trading for offensive linemen. That should be obviously number one. It's just finding the guys. I saw PFF put out, top 20 trade candidates. Only one of them was an offensive lineman. It was Jermaine Illuminor from the Giants, who is their starting right tackle in front of Jackson Dart right now, and they just beat the Eagles last week.
Don't think that he's going anywhere now.
Yeah, 71 plus grade through 6 weeks. In each of the last 2 seasons, he's hit that mark. Yeah, I love that. I just don't think they're going to be willing to part ways with him. But let's get to this last one here that I really like from Darren Wasser, who says, "What's up, guys? Buy or sell, Oronde Gadsden has the best season of this year's rookie draft class." Me and David took this 2 different ways. I was thinking amongst the other rookie tight ends. He took it as I think it was meant to be taken as against the Chargers draft class. And I think, David, with the Omarion Hampton injury, it doesn't seem that crazy.
No, it doesn't. And Oronde Gadsden has been very, very productive so far for the Chargers. I think the only other draft pick I think that might be in consideration when it's all said and done is Jamari Caldwell. And I think Jamari Caldwell has done a lot of the dirty work, and I feel like has been very effective, and he doesn't get a lot of praise because of how he is asked to affect the game. But I feel like he has affected the game, and he has earned more snaps and has been a part of that defensive line rotation for sure. But Oronde Gadsden, I think, is in the same boat where he's going to continue, especially after this game, where he had the fumble, came back, showed that perseverance, and was reliable with the ball in his hands and caught passes constantly from Justin Herbert. That's going to happen continuously throughout the season. So I think those two guys, to me, are going to be in line for that particular distinction.
Yeah, it probably will come down to those two guys. I mean, right now, I think you would have to give it to him. I mean, just because obviously counting stats are how you make these decisions. But
of course,
he's fourth on the team in receiving yards right now with 144. He has more than Trey Harris and KOS combined right now. I mean, Trey Harris has 72. KOS has 3 receiving yards so far this year, but Jamari Caldwell has been impactful, right? He has 7 pressures, has played 172 snaps in the middle of that defensive line, and I think he's played pretty well. I was also interested, though, to see how he's compared to other rookie tight ends, and it was kind of crazy to see that, even with only being really in 2 games heavily involved, like he's up there. He's 4th in receiving yards amongst rookie tight ends so far this year, only behind Tyler Warren, who we loved, Harold Fannin, who, David, you had in your final mock to the Chargers, and also Mason Taylor. So he's 4th, and he's a 5th-round pick. All those other guys, I believe, were top 3-round picks between those 3 guys. I think Mason Taylor was 2nd. Warren was a 1st-round pick. The guy we loved, Colston Loveland, has 5 catches for 54 yards this year, right? Now you're talking about 144 yards for Oronde Gadsden so far through 6 games and coming off of easily the best game of his career. I mean, Oronde Gadsden had a better game than Colston Loveland's had a season catching the football.
This is true.
Week. So he's already, David, one of the best rookie tight ends. And more than that, he's 9th in receiving yards amongst all rookies, wide receivers included, and also 8th in receptions. Pretty impressive.
5th-round pick. Put some respect on his name.
Which is the only reason that, I paused when you trade a 5th-round pick for Odafe Owe is only because, we might be talking about 3 out of 4, maybe 4 out of 4 of those guys being NFL-level players in the 5th round on day 3. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. We still have more tomorrow that we want to get into, including, the clutchness of Justin Herbert, maybe compared to Phillip Rivers. I know something we talked about, the Chargers injury reserve spots drying up as far as guys they have allowed to return we have to get into, and probably some Chargers mailbags. So make sure you hit us up at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page where we post the show to all those places as well. You can also call into the voicemail line and leave a 30-second Chargers question at 323-524-7924. But thank you to all the everydayers. As always, you always make it worth it. And to make sure you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. But we'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.